Or collect.
Lately, everything outside my window's crazy. They blame me.
Did you know there are UFOs out here flying around unidentified? I'm serious. They sighted a bunch over Georgia. I've seen them at night. They have real photos of them, and the government and the people just completely seem like don't talk about it. But Mr. Harold Salkin of Washington, D.C. is the head of the National UFO.
This is a message from the goddess Isis. Awaken starseeds.
Insanity is doing the same thing repeatedly and expecting a different result. That makes the supporters of this legislation, by definition, insane. Reckless spending in this town is what causes inflation. And we cannot continue to increase taxes on the American people and put a target on American energy production while spending a historic $370 billion on Green New Deal initiatives and expect to lower inflation and improve our economy.
This is 60s drug guru Timothy Leary having a cocktail party with his CIA MK Ultra handlers. In this never-before-seen footage, Leary sits on the couch and talks shop with Colonel Al Hubbard and Dr. Sidney Gottlieb, both key players in the MK Ultra project. A few months ago, I did a whole video on Al Hubbard, the shadowy character who started the LSD craze and got Timothy Leary started on LSD at Harvard.
Good morning. I'm here to give you an update on the FBI's investigation of Secretary Clinton. What I want to do is tell you what we're recommending. But first, let me tell you what we found. 110 emails in 52 email chains have been determined to contain classified information.
What difference at this point does it make?
8 of those chains are top secret. 36 of those chains secret. And 8 contain confidential information.
What difference at this point does it make?
Everything I did was permitted. There was no law, no regulation.
Secretary Clinton should have known that an unclassified system was no place for that conversation.
I did not email any classified material to anyone on my email.
None of these emails should have been on any kind of classified system, not even Gmail.
But first of all, nothing was marked classified.
To the contrary,
Nothing was marked classified.
there is evidence of
Nothing was
tremendous
marked.
amount,
Nothing was
tremendous
marked.
My bad. Apparently, that is not a bidet. I figured out IKEA maybe it's a Swedish thing, but they did not like what I was doing.
Skull and Bones, the secret society.
It's so secret we can't talk about it.
What does that mean for America? The conspiracy theorists are going to go
I'm
on.
sure they are. I don't know. I haven't seen the web.
Number 322.
First of all, he's not the nominee, and look, I look forward.
Are you prepared to lose?
No, I'm not going to lose.
You both were members of Skull and Bones, a secret society at Yale. What does that tell us?
Not much, because it's a secret.
Is there a secret handshake? Is there a secret code?
I wish there were something secret I could manifest.
322, secret number?
There are all kinds of secrets, Tim, but...
Gold and silver. And the Fed, the IRS, the CIA, the FBI. It's written right there on your $100 reserve note. Whenever any form of government becomes destructive, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government that will most benefit their safety and happiness.
The Air Force is on record as saying, quote, they want to control the weather by 2025, and we are not talking about just seeding the clouds for rain. Of April this year, there are more than 150 different weather modification programs around the world. Since about 2000, the Department of Defense and the Department of Energy have been spraying the entire United States sky with the toxic brew of chemicals and other biologic agents.
We are in a war. There is a global corporate takeover, the Great Reset, happening worldwide.
This is the time when this network of interbreeding bloodlines wants to bring in its global fascist structure of a world government.
President Eisenhower tried to warn us about this years ago. The hostile takeover of a scientific,
technological elite.
The next phase is the surveillance going under our skin. Total biometric surveillance. We now see mass surveillance systems established even in democratic countries which previously rejected them. And we also see a change in the nature of surveillance. Previously, surveillance was mainly above the skin. Now it's going under the skin. Now, in the past, many tyrants and governments wanted to do it, but nobody understood well enough, and nobody had enough computing power and data to hack millions of people. Neither the Gestapo nor the KGB could do it. But soon, at least some corporations and governments will be able to systematically hack all the people.
This. You are not alone. This is the resistance. You are not alone. This is the resistance. You are not alone. This is the resistance.
Now, you don't know it yet, but you are listening to History in the Making while you are listening to this show.
We know now that in the early years of the 20th century, this world was being watched closely by intelligences greater than man, yet as mortal as his own.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
Censored by the mainstream media, the destroyer of fake news, and your host of The Rundown Live, Kristan T. Harris.
Welcome to another edition of the Rundown Live, rundownlive.com. I'm your host, Kristan T. Harris, and we have a great show lined up for you guys, so don't go anywhere. Hit the like link, hit the love link, hit the share link, tag your friends, let them know to tune in to today's broadcast because we're going to dive into futurism, secret government operations, interesting developments in the world that is going on right now with the Mar-a-Lago thing. By the way, hey, if you got the most votes in the world and you're President Joe Biden, and you know he's the most famous president in history, you wouldn't really need to raid Mar-a-Lago, right, to keep Donald Trump from running again, obviously, because he legitimately won. That's basically what that would say. And if you did raid Mar-a-Lago to prevent Donald Trump from running again, would that put into question to the logical person that you legitimately won that election? I don't know. I'll let you guys decide. I'm just saying he got the most votes ever, and we shouldn't question things. Don't ask questions. Asking questions is bad. It will get you banned from everywhere out there. And we're going to dive into some interesting stuff today. Brain cloud interfaces. And I'm not talking Joe versus the volcano where he goes to the doctor and he's like, you've got brain cloud. He's like, brain cloud? He's like, yeah, you're going to die. And then he wants to throw himself as a sacrifice into the volcano. But in reality, maybe that's what we should do with our trash. Just put it all in the volcano, you know, nature's natural incinerator and a whole bunch more. But today joining me is our lovely co-host, Don Vi Jr. from the Free Thought Project. And we got a lot of great changes happening here. Because of you guys supporting us, people buying t-shirts, we've been able to hire a video editor that's going to start making short videos with our voiceovers, amongst other things. We got new intros. We're professionalizing the show to look more pro, to look more crisp, and to reach more people. As you guys know, the idea of truth and trutherism is under attack by the mainstream media, and they dub it alternative facts. because, our facts aren't what they believe them to be. And should we ask questions and should we not, especially when it starts coming to things like this? We're also going to dive into documents released on the CIA's experimentation of drugs on Black Americans. We're going to dive into 3D printed bugs. That's right. They want you to eat bugs. And by they, I mean the World Economic Forum. I mean the Bilderbergers. I mean globalists. And I don't mean good globalists. I mean a sick, degraded few. And we're going to dive into some all this kind of stuff and a whole bunch more on today's broadcast. So punch that love button, punch the share button, drop comments, drop questions in the chat, and let people know. Share it to their messengers, whatever it is. Help spread the word of the Rundown Live. And as we are here today, Don, there's a lot to cover. As you know, the whole Mar-a-Lago thing seems to be saturating the news. So we're going to talk about what people aren't covering for most of the show today.
Yeah, indeed. That's always typically the good rule of thumb whenever there's a story that's, all over the news, saturating the news. Always look for, what they're hiding from you, what they're not talking about. Because even if what's being talked about in the news is pertinent, is paramount, is something that you should pay attention to, chances are if it's on the mainstream network, they're getting that spin on it to proliferate their divide and conquer, to, distract and divide and all that sort of stuff. So definitely, it's a good practice to make sure that you're looking for what they want to keep you distracted from.
Well, this is what I want to dive into. And I've been involved in the transhumanist movement for a number of reasons, not just because I enjoy the conversations. I enjoy Star Trek technology. Listen, futurism isn't all bad. It's a tool. It can be used good for good. It can be used for bad. And as we know, majority of globalists identify it and they sell it as the good things. I had a conversation with somebody who sits prominently on the World Economic Forum. People are like, oof. And pretty much that's how the conversation went. He's like, you don't believe in the New World Order conspiracy. He goes, no. He was telling me that I didn't know what the New World Order conspiracy was. And he said, it's not a conspiracy. It's literally a bunch of people getting together to make a liberal world order to make the world a better place. And I don't deny that these individuals are useful stooges in the plot of the diabolical plot of Adam Weishaupt utopianism, because none of them really believe that Klaus Schwab's ideology that you will eat bugs and you won't have any private property and this whole pre-crime narrative that's coming into play. But pre-crime is going to be huge. And something I wanted to talk about and start off our show about today is called a brain cloud interface. So we're going to be talking about brain cloud zombies. So for those that are out there and they don't know what a brain cloud interface is, well, essentially what it is they will install a chip if you want to take part of this in the near future. And within 20 years, they're going to have something what's called neural nanotechnology robots that are engulfed within your ecosystem of your body. And you won't get a choice. Of course, Ray Kurzweil says nanobots will be parting in everyone's brain within by 2030. So what is that? Within 8 years. And I started to do research because these elitists and these scientists who mean well, I believe they mean well. Like when I start talking to more people that are United Nations and European Union, World Economic Forum, and all these groups, they seem to have a different idea of what is really going on. In fact, they're sold that majority of what they're there for is to better mankind. But underneath the green agenda, underneath it is this like watermelon of red communism inside, which we'll call fully automated communism, where robots will do everything. So a brain chip interface we all know what that is. They're going to put a chip in your brain, and what that can do is maybe help with some medical issues, record all your waking moments, and be able to share it. But when I started diving into this report that came out by top influencers by Kurzweil Technology, Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, Miami Project to Cure Paralysis, and it sounds like a great thing, Department of Philosophy, Purdue, and many others, we needed to talk about this today and dive in, and it's going to all connect together. First of all, I want you to think about the fact that if everyone is going to have neural nanobots in our brain, that means non-stop surveillance. And when Klaus Schwab is talking about pre-crime and banning things from being on social media by when you type it and you hit enter and you get censored before it happens, that is pre-crime. Basically, that means non-stop, basically, surveillance of you as an individual, okay? Now imagine we go one step further and all your thoughts could be downloaded. Not only that, maybe somebody could take control of your body, because I'm already reading reports, and we're going to dive into this right now. Basically, the idea of nanotechnologies and what it can do, they report it as good things, and paralysis and forgetfulness. They'll be able to do a whole bunch of things. But the term cloud, by the way, in the brain cloud interface refers to the cloud computing. It's the Internet of Things and information technology. Imagine that you want to go on vacation, Don, and you're going to hit all the love language locations. You're going to hit Italy, Greece. You're going to hit Germany. You're going to hit Mexico. You're going to go to all these places, and you could download the language into your brain and then be able to speak and coherently understand things. It's almost like what the Georgia Guidestone said. Remember, unify the world under a singular language. Well, what will that language be? Probably telepathy, where you're going to be able to access information from the cloud. And not only that, you'll be able to gather, maybe learn how to fly a helicopter, amongst other things. And humankind has at its core a potent and ceaseless drive to explore the challenge of itself, to improve its collective condition by relentlessly probing and pushing boundaries of technology. The notions of human augmentation and cognitive enhancement are born of these tenets. And if you think about it, the human brain and quantitative human brain, which is basically the computer brain, will be in constant communication with your brain. And now the idea is you'll be able to upload your consciousness through these nanobots, and they'll be able to print you out, let's say, a clone body, and you'll be able to install it. So when people seem like they could live forever, this is the idea, and at least one of the many plans out there. And they're going to have like processing units. And when we talk about these things, we need to talk about their ability to implant ideas into your head, because it won't be long until you get your initial education and you'll be able to download it into your head. Here it is. Here's an article, and we're going to put this on the screen as you guys are seeing this. The one I'm talking to you guys about. This is a hypothesis and the theory article written by some of the experts in singularity, life extension, nano neural technology, amongst other things. And they're really talking about how they'll literally be able to control your every aspect of your life. They will know what you consume, when you're thinking about consuming it, what turns you on, what does not. They'll be able to advertise to you in this ways. The brain-machine interface, which is right here. The brain-machine interface technology, if you don't know, is currently being pursued via invasive neural interfaces composed of neural microchip sensor arrays, which is the image we showed, the little chip being implanted in the brain, and contains plurality of electrodes that can detect multicellular signals. These are available for several brain areas, visual cortex, meaning they could then download whatever you see into a computer, or you could broadcast it. Like if you went to a concert and you're like, Kristan, I want you to see what I'm seeing. Let me beam it over to you through the brain cloud interface. That's what we're talking about. Motor cortex, neural prosthetics. So being able to control prosthetics if you lose a limb. Sounds great, right? Sounds cool. But what is really the end game for these world dominant type like globalization, the way things go? And here's a little image kind of showing you how it's going to work, going back and forth, and maybe your brain chip interface, which is the system that they have set up now, will communicate with the cloud. And what's really scary about it is the BrainNet systems. Particularly intriguing about this application are technologies termed BrainNets, and involve the interfacing of processing of neural signals recorded from multiple brains to enable information exchange between interconnected brains. Bro, this is straight out of Star Trek. Remember the mind meld with Spock? He's like, and the Kurt's like, his eyes are rolling in the back of his head, and he's like, okay, now you know exactly what I've what I've done, and now you can see it. Experiments have tested 3 different control systems using 2 to 3 implanted monkeys that share this technology. And as you've seen, you can go see in the videos, they're driving around wirelessly with their hands free and on wheelchairs amongst other things. And you want to dive into this, but it's not far away. The neural nano robotic brain cloud interface is coming, and there's nothing you can do about it. This is a plan for the Singularity, and they're already saying they want to depopulate the planet. But if you want to know how it works and how it goes, this is the deep dive into it. You can check this out. They also have synaptobots, which I'm starting to talk in a whole different language, insecticons, amongst other things. But like, this is where we're going, right? You're going to be sitting there and they're going to need some extra soldiers, and all of a sudden the brain chip or the nanobots are going to take over your body and you're going to be walking like a zombie. Remember the zombie survival guide? Well, how long is it until they just start turning people into zombies and they start walking and getting that Manchurian candidate? Who says they don't already have this? And maybe some assassins in the past that we don't know about had brain chip interfaces. We just don't know. Nobody's cutting these people's brain open, but here's the technology showing that right now, that in the next 20 years, we'll be able to have this capability to end things like paralysis, which is great. But with it comes great responsibility and a lot of questionable antics and potential that this could be ethically used improperly.
Right. Yeah. That really is the case with a lot of this technology. It's a massive Trojan horse operation where there can be a lot of practical and even beneficial applications of what has been developed. But the problem is the underlying nature of it, where, it's all sort of, earlier you asked, what is really the end goal? And it's really the technocratic transhumanist sort of agenda. All falls into Agenda 2030. The integration of humanity with robots is sort of a dehumanizing sort of a way, sort of a thing, and proliferates that whole idea of these technocrats want to push.
Well, here it is. Here's the basic cloud interface. These are the applications. Like you get apps for your phone. These are the applications. It says cumulative human knowledge doubled approximately every century until 1900. By 1950, human knowledge was doubling every 25 years. As of 2006, an average human knowledge was doubled every 13 months, and the Internet of Things is expected to further lower the doubling time of human knowledge to 12 hours. 12 hours only. Such massive amounts of information increase the urgency to radically improve human learning capacities, where are currently limited to biological evolution-driven characteristics. The impracticability of keeping up with the modern rate of creation of scientific knowledge is clearly evident, assuming present-day human biological cognitive abilities contemporary approaches are having a problem to include this and limiting strategies. So what they're saying is they'll be able to download knowledge to your brain at incredible speeds. The ultimate learning process may be manifested as direct transfer of knowledge to the human brain. So direct transfer of knowledge to the human brain. Not only that, we'll be able to share each other's knowledge from brain to brain. With a neural nano robotics empower practically instantaneously and nearly perfect learning. And so makes you wonder why they want to ban trutherism. Well, makes you wonder why they want to ban conspiracies. You're not going to be a good, they don't want you to think. They're going to do all the thinking for you. You're going to download their encyclopedia from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the criminal empire, Dr. Blue Screen himself, and you have a little Fauci pop up in your, your visual cortex. And here he's going to tell you, oh, by the way, we're going to download the latest, direction for your life. You want to do this for a living? Don't worry. You can just download that for a price. However, the ultimate learning process may be manifested as direct transfer knowledge to the human brain, where neural nanobots empower practically instantaneously nearly perfect learning. However, the injection of facts and accumulated knowledge may not necessarily translate to cognition, understanding, meta-analysis, or meta-thought. that can inspire imagination and creativity. Complex skills such as playing the piano or performing a complex brain operation might be injected into the brain, which may reduce the time that it traditionally takes to learn the piano or to be proficient in brain surgery. This may be possible as these are the specific manual skills that are imprinted in the brain. Access to the hippocampus of cerebellum for memory injection would also be required, as well as cerebellum and basal ganglia for complex motor skills. So you want to play the piano like Beethoven, you're going to be able to by just downloading a program to your brain. And, stimulating a virtual lesions, a small regions of the brain either diminish and enhance skills in some transcranial magnetic stimulation experiments. Enhancement of human intelligence, they say. The brains of humans with high IQs are extensively integrated with neural pathways that connect distant brain regions. So my question is what will they implant into your brain? So if you get out of the line, will they just jam this information into your brain? Like, will they force you to be a good
very
citizen?
possible.
I mean, that's where we're going. This is crazy, bro. This is crazy. And if you guys think that this isn't far away, right? They literally have articles coming up on this right now. Today in the news, here it is. And we're going to go ahead and segue slowly because we're going to a commercial break in just a moment. Lawyers could have electronic chips implanted in their brains that enable them to scan through documents in fraction of time, reports suggest. Give it to lawyers, the greatest people in the world. Everyone loves a lawyer. You know who loves lawyers right now? Alex Jones. That's really where we're going. Like, lawyers are great people, right? They would never do anything. Wasn't it liar, liar? I mean, that's everything lawyers are synonymous with is lying. It's not like a genuine industry. And here it says brain implants could reduce the number of lawyers required to work on a case. Clients could pay for their services by unit of attention rather than by the hour. A report claims neurotechnology in society could pose new ethical concerns. Lawyers may have to consider that their defendant's chip could be hacked. Oh, they could just chat. We didn't even think about that. Somebody could hack your brain chip interface, get an Xbox controller, and all of a sudden you're playing, Call of Duty, and you're going up and shooting up things. Like, that's where we're going. And I'm not even. This is like straight out of the Daily Mail, the UK Daily Mail. And I'm trying to tell you and warn you that this is where we're going, and there's almost nothing we can do about it. So my question to you guys, the listeners, I want you to think about this during the break. Is this something we should assimilate with so we can fight it from the inside? Or once we assimilate, is this the mark of the beast that the Bible talks about and everyone says, oh, those conspiracy-loving Christians, oh, they believe that this is the mark of the beast? Where did it come from? It had to come from somewhere, some religious guy on DMT, who knows? Or the world once had this before, and that's what destroyed the world, was some kind of war. All this and a whole bunch more. Don't go anywhere. We got more coming. We got 3D printed bugs. You're going to eat them, and you're going to love them. We have the CIA docs talking about experiments on Black Americans and drug industry, and a whole bunch more coming up. We'll see you guys after these words from our sponsors. We should ban questions. Don't forget it, guys.
Looks innocent enough, doesn't it? Lots of young people play cornhole in the park. Seems like a good place to toss a bag around. But sometimes there are dangers involved that never meet the eye. So no matter where you meet a stranger, be careful if they are too friendly. One never knows when the conspiracy theorist is about. Let's take the case of Ronald Farber. Ronald played cornhole all afternoon, and he didn't feel like throwing bags alone, so he decided to ask another boy. He'd done it 100 times before. He didn't think anything was unusual when the boy struck up a friendly conversation. In fact, he seemed like a real nice guy. What Ronald didn't know was that Ralph was sick. A sickness that was not visible like swine flu, but no less dangerous and contagious. A sickness of the mind. You see, Ralph was a conspiracy theorist, a paranoid person with a desperate need to feel they have a special knowledge that somehow sets them apart from the masses. So no matter where you meet a stranger, Be careful. If they are too open-minded, if they question the official versions of the facts, and if they don't trust the United States government. One never knows when the conspiracy theorist is about. He may appear normal.
It's no secret that the independent media is held to a much higher standard than the lamestream media. When's the last time that you've seen the New York Times get a 30-day ban for lying about weapons of mass destruction? Or how about the Independent getting a 7-day suspension on YouTube for claiming that everyone that Kyle Rittenhouse shot was African American? The truth is you don't, because they get away with it. We don't. We're independents. And what separates us from the lamestream media is that we are 100% funded by you. That's right. We're your radio program. We're your station, and we're open to everyone. We're interested in hearing all the topics, all the sides, because that's kind of like how science works, right? You take in all the data, you decide what is correct and what is not, but it doesn't censor information, because then you can't make great decisions to feed your brain. We need your help here on therundownlive.com. Support us by heading over to our website and checking out our brand new swag. We have hot and sexy, all-seeing eye UFO pyramid boombox t-shirts. That's right, check them out. They're great, and there's no better way to support us than picking up some swag to spread the word about liberty and freedom and the ability to choose what is real and what is not for yourself, not some ministry of truth. Check us out, therundownlive.com. Pick up a t-shirt today. Again, that's therundownlive.com. Hit our store link and go shop, pick something up, support us.
Oil and slave labor. These two wonderful industries make modern life a breeze. And what this fine little filly doesn't realize is that her chic accessories and stunning appearance come from oil and slave labor.
Huh?
That's right, classy lassie. Everything from your thong to your nail polish, your smartphone to your eyelashes come from oil and slave labor. Your top from Uzbekistan. Shorts from China. Jewelry from Indonesia. And your iPhone from Taiwan.
Oh no, not my iPhone!
Steve Jobs may have been a genius, but he couldn't work like a 5-year-old Asian boy can. Even your brawn panties from Bangladesh. Whoa there! Looks like science can go no further. Except for these silicone beauties from DuPont.
Hey.
Oil and slave labor, making the Western world beautiful.
Rundown Live, rundownlive.com. If you're joining us, we are now talking brain chip interfaces, brain cloud interfaces, and a whole bunch more. And let's not forget this lovely article when we were talking about synthetic telepathy about 2 years ago. Will computers soon be able to read our thoughts? U.S. military plans to develop cyborg soldiers using brain implants that control machines. And by the way, they don't need to open up your cranium anymore to implant these chips. Did you know that, Don? That was in the news today. One of the articles.
I did see that recently, and it's wild, because we've been talking about this for a number of years now, and just the amount of the things that almost seems like, we're not Nostradamus over here, folks. We just understand how the game is played, and just really seeing a lot of these things come to fruition. It is wild, brother.
Well, it's only going to be used for good stuff, Don. That's it. I mean, our government wouldn't do anything bad, such as, let's say using swarms of robots to attack their own citizens, or, strap a robot with a giant missile launcher, which is, by the way, also in news right here. Check this out. This is Vice. Robot dog with RPG strapped to its back, demoed at Russian arms fair. I mean, yeah, let's just do the robot thing. Here it is. We'll put it on the screen for y'all. Look at that. Look at robot dog, and it literally has RPG on there, a grenade launcher, and so it's all dressed in black. They dressed it up so it won't be easily seen, and you won't be able to see the warmth of the physical being, but you'll be able to detect that there's something going on. And this is what the armies are going to. They're going to robots so they don't have to kill people. But what happens after the robots lose to the other robots? Do the robots then go after the people? And I think that answer should come to us pretty obviously, that the answer is yes. Or do we just surrender after the robots lose because we don't want people die? As you know, they already complain that there's too many people in the world. You have people at the World Economic Forum saying, there's too many people. Technology is here where we don't need so many people, amongst many other things. Hacking these brain chip interfaces are a legitimacy. Let's say if you're a lawyer and you have these brain chip interfaces, here it says CIA sued over allegedly spying on lawyers and journalists who met with Julian Assange. I'm not surprised about that. This leads into your article that we need to talk about.
Yeah, I saw this come up yesterday. This one's out of Yahoo News. The one that I pulled up is out of Consortium News, which I trust a whole lot more than the mainstream stuff. But Consortium has been doing a really good job keeping track of the whole Assange case, essentially from the very beginning. So essentially what happened is that during the whole process, for those that have been keeping up with the Assange situation, there were a number of guests that came to.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us.
This was their live feed from yesterday, where they basically just sort of press conference covered the whole situation, and a number of Americans, about 4 of them, went to visit Julian and have conversations and whatnot, and the CIA conducted spying operations on them. They've completely violated their Fourth Amendment rights, and so the lawsuits have been filed against former CIA Director Mike Pompeo, the CIA, and a number of individuals, as well as the Spanish security firm UC Global, basically saying that their privacy rights have been completely violated, which they were. I mean, it should be an open and shut case, but of course, as we've seen with the entirety of the Julian Assange saga, nothing is ever going to be that simple with the kangaroo courts that they've set up around this whole thing.
Well, the problem with Julian Assange is different slightly than Alex Jones, but it's the same thing. And people are like, what do you mean? I mean that Julian Assange exposed alternative facts. Basically everything that, Alex Jones might have been saying and that was obvious and that he knew behind the scenes, and brought that evidence forward. Let's not talk about the handkerchief map by Podesta and the UFO stuff with Tom DeLonge, amongst other things. He's talking to these top guys, and I saw an interview with Tom DeLonge. He's really excited that he was talking to Podesta, amongst other things. We got this whole idea of surveillance and the WikiLeaks, the climate game that showed and exposed that the whole climate change narrative was prominently used to propagandize and was false. The world isn't going to end in 7 years since Greta Thunberg gave that powerful speech that they put to metal, metal music that was viral all over the news. Do you think that in 10 years, Greta Thunberg is going to be she's going to be like, yeah, I was wrong? Or do you think she's still going to be out there and she's just going to go find a little bush like Al Gore did after New York was underwater by 2012?
I can almost guarantee that as she gets older, Greta Thunberg is going to have some sort of involvement in the EU or some sort of, the UN, who knows? But, she's definitely seems like, unfortunately, because I can't bash her, but too much. She's a child, so, she's a child that's been manipulated by this system. She really, in my opinion, I believe she really does truly believe, the doomsayer narrative that has unfortunately been thrust down her throat, as well as the collective throats of the youth. But unfortunately, she seems like she would be, unless she wakes up and realizes that she's been lied to and manipulated by these people. She seems as though she may be a good little soldier for the Green Revolution narrative. And so I can definitely see her, being with the UN or something.
Well, not only that, if bankers really believed in global warming and climate change, they wouldn't be buying up beachfront property at an alarming rate, because there would be a warning, I think, with every purchase that, if the water levels raise, you'll be under the water within 10 years. All it takes is 10 feet and half the United States will be underwater. And yeah, you don't see those warnings, which really tells me either bankers don't believe in global warming, which it's funny, they're the ones that fund it. They must not believe it entirely. It's a system of control. But, you know, Julian Assange during the ClimateGate fiasco, and you can look it up, there's a lot of like counterintelligence and tries by globalism to disprove it, was one of the major leaks. We can't forget as well the Clinton leaks, the Podesta leaks, which spawned the idea that there's child trafficking going on because Podesta had a handkerchief that was MAP, or minor attractive person related, that he left at somebody's house, as well as him having children in the pool, and just weird, bizarre stuff that, you know, talking about pizzas and walnuts. I don't even know what that all means, but that really spawned some conspiracies that really has been used to go after individuals. And then, of course, they had some kind of person out there who shot up a pizzeria, and then that really became what was known as a conspiracy that is used to basically go after individuals that talk about anything, because you know what, everything they use to discredit you, if you expose something like Julian Assange did, these are facts. These are directly from their words, that they were trying to patchwork together to make the earth look like it was getting warmer, and it really wasn't. And that's why they had to change the term from climate, or from global warming to climate change. Julian Assange essentially brought facts, and those facts were used and reinforced basically what people like Alex Jones said. And that's why he's dangerous. They can't have alternative facts. They can't have the truth out there.
Well, not only that, he played such a pivotal role in really exposing the heinous crimes against humanity committed by the American empire in the United States' various wars of aggression. I mean, that's really one of the biggest reasons that has been openly cited by people like Mike Pompeo as to exactly why the CIA and the American government does and has had such a hard-on for him and trying to throw him in a cage for 175 years for telling the truth, is because when Chelsea Manning came out with and sent to Julian and his team the documentation for the collateral murder footage, which is at this point is infamous. You know, it was just this past June, I believe, was the anniversary of the collateral murder footage being released, showing the United States Army Apache gunships in Iraq committing war crimes, murdering civilians, murdering journalists, unarmed individuals. They fired upon these unarmed civilians whom they claimed had weapons, when in reality the people they claimed had weapons, they were two Reuters journalists who had his weapon on his shoulder was a camera, which is very clearly visible. Everyone else was unarmed, including two children in one of the vans that was parked on the side of the road that they also shot up. And then when other unarmed civilians ran out into the road, you could very clearly tell they were unarmed. They were running out to offer medical aid. They lit them up again. So very clear demonstration of war crimes. And this is not a one-off event, as we know, as along with that, WikiLeaks released the Iraq war logs, the Afghanistan war logs, and a number of these other things. Of course, later years on, Daniel Hale came out and released his information about the drone program, revealing that 90% of drone strike victims are civilians. That's one of the biggest reasons, perhaps the biggest reason, that the CIA and the United States government has against Assange and WikiLeaks, is that they revealed what a fraud all of America's wars are, as many of us have been saying for a long time. You know, it's been since the Vietnam War, many of us have been pointing out that our government lies to go to war. Even before that, but even prior to Vietnam, that wasn't that big of a narrative, because you had that rah-rah flag waving support at post World War II. But certainly since Vietnam, there's been a huge voice pointing out our wars are based on lies. This government does not fight for freedom and democracy. It fights for corporations. It fights for banks. And Julian did a huge job of exposing the horrible, I mean, I can't say it enough, the crimes against humanity, because it's exactly what they are, committed in the countries that the United States invades, occupies, and pillages. And I mean, I say pillage specifically because we have countless reports of the United States stealing the resources of the nations that it occupies. Just recently, I shared an article on my page, Break the Matrix, a report out of The Cradle, which is a good Middle Eastern foreign policy website, showing that the Syrian oil ministry released a report showing that in the occupied territories of Syria, the United States military steals up to 66,000 barrels of Syrian oil every day. And then on August 10th, a video was released, filmed on a Russian attack helicopter, showing a massive convoy of American military vehicles that are oil trucks passing over the border from Raqqa, Syria, into Iraq. To reiterate the point, that is essentially one of the big reasons why the U.S. government has it out for Assange, because it exposes that our foreign policy and our military and our, what the wars are about is a fraud. It's all a lie.
Well, I mean, that's what the war on conspiracy theorists and war on patriots is about. This is the globalization, the New World Order per se, their words, not mine, coming after Americans that don't agree with them philosophically, and they want to maintain some form of segregation of our nation from other nations. Not only that, they don't want to accept this neo-fascist agenda, which is essentially what the globalism is, disguised as a new Green Deal, disguised as smart growth, disguised as sustainable development, so disguised as common core curriculum, disguised as a brain cloud interface, disguised as all these different things. Everything is going down the toilet. Like, you can't even, people can't even stand Hollywood anymore. They're not even like looking at making a lot of these movies. They're canceling movies. The new Batgirl was trash. They had to trash it. Like, the whole idea of what these globalists are pushing towards is exposed in part by WikiLeaks, these international corporate, what I call multinational corporatists who are trying to go after Americans. Look at weapons of mass destruction. And you wonder why the New York Times, or how the New York Times is still being published after that, and hundreds of thousands of people died. But yet Alex Jones gets sued for misinformation because he goes after globalists and elitism, which is everything the left claims that they don't like. But what we've learned is it doesn't matter if you're far left or far right. Both of them just want to be the cops. They just want to rule and tell other people what to do. And I'm not for that. But this is right up there with the atrocities of our government. Julian Assange should have been pardoned, and for some reason that didn't happen with the Orange Man. Speaking of the Orange Man, it was interesting. There was 14 whistleblowers allegedly that from the FBI have come forward, and I wonder what that's about. I haven't dived a whole lot into it, but I know that this is one of the top news stories out there right now, and that's 14 FBI whistleblowers have come forward to provide information to Republican congressional investigations. Rep. Jim Jordan of Ohio said Sunday, after about a week after the FBI raided former President Donald Trump's former Florida home. Of course, you got to raid, Donald Trump, because Joe Biden got the most votes ever in American history. And you know exactly what you do. If you won legitimately, you have to raid the former president to prevent him from running again. But 14 FBI agents have come to our office as whistleblowers, and they are good people, Jordan told Fox News. There are lots of good people in the FBI. It's the top that is the problem. Some of these good agents are coming to us, telling us what's going on, the political nature now that the Justice Department talking about the school board issue, about the whole host of issues, he's added. 2 months ago, Jordan said that 6 FBI whistleblowers approached the committee. 2 came forward in relation to school board memo, and 4 in connection to the January 6th Capitol breach in the Senate. Meanwhile, Senator Chuck Grassley, Republican of Iowa, said in July that whistleblowers have come to his office to provide information, including disclosures relating to investigations into the Hunter Biden's overseas business dealings. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's probably with Russia and Ukraine. And, just like the right does, the left deflected in the whole Russian collusion thing, which was a Clinton psyop, pushed through the FBI because she didn't get anything when her computer was purposely destroyed. Evidence was destroyed. She took things home, a product from the White House, amongst many other things, and no one raided her house, and she got away pretty scot-free, other than it cost her the election. Because you remember, they like Donald Trump more than Hillary Clinton. Not that they like Trump at all, though. But it's becoming a well-worn trail of agents who say that they've got to stop, and thank goodness for them, and that the American people recognize it. And I believe they're going to make a big change on November 8th. Jordan said Sunday, referring to the 2022 midterm. So, what are we seeing here? 14 FBI agents are coming forward. We've seen the news today that FBI national operation located over 121 actively missing kids. So there are good things that happen in the FBI. But what's happening is that they're going after their political adversaries. They're going after the head of the snake. And that's why the left always pushes this decentralized organization of terrorist cells of Antifa and extremist cells of leftists, because then they can't identify who the head of the snake is, and I wouldn't be surprised that some of these are black ops or working alongside the government, like Bellingcat, which we know definitely gets government contractor money, amongst other things, and they literally direct the sedition hunters who are responsible for catching people from January 6th. So literally Antifa is the people persecuting people, and this is literally our government being a criminal operation to go after political enemies, which has never really been seen before entirely in America. They have, but not in this, like going after the former president and trying to prevent him to run, because Joe Biden got all those 85 million votes legitimately. That's what you do. You raid the former president to prevent him from running again because you legitimately won that election. And I'm not saying Biden had anything to do with it really, but I'm telling you the Clinton complex hates Trump because he prevented her from being the next president. Essentially, that's what I get out of it in part. Not saying I'm 100% accurate here, but that's kind of everything that I'm seeing with this right now. But it's wild. And let's dive into the CIA thing when we come back from break, because we got like 5 or 6 minutes here. But what's your thought on these 14 FBI whistleblowers?
Well, the first thought that came to mind is I actually find it interesting the amount of whistleblowers that are starting to come out of the FBI. I know within the past couple months, just a few months ago, we had a few of the whistleblowers come out to Project Veritas. They maintained their anonymity, but they released a number of documents. And then just a few weeks ago on this program, we covered an article from Zero Hedge that a number of FBI whistleblowers, I believe they even came out to Representative Jim Jordan, came out talking about how the FBI was skewing domestic terrorism data. And now we have these 14 FBI whistleblowers. So just the amount of whistleblowers that are coming out of the FBI right now, I really think it goes to show that there is an ideological exodus happening in the agency currently, that a lot of the perhaps the lower level agents are starting to realize that maybe the agency doesn't do what they thought it did when they signed up for it. Of course, we know that they don't. We know it's a political weapon. And, I shared a video just yesterday, as a matter of fact. I think it was a clip from the Jimmy Dore show, but he was playing a video from Ron Paul about 40 years ago during the 1980s, where Ron Paul himself was talking about the fact that the FBI has always been a political weapon, how they've always been utilized during the Johnson administration, the Nixon administration with the Operation COINTELPRO, infiltrating and spying on Americans, destabilizing social and political movements. So the FBI has always been a weapon against the American people. It's just crazy how open and brazen and blatant they're being with it nowadays, as opposed to then. At least back then, it was a secret. Like the Black Panthers had to break into an FBI field office and steal documents to prove that COINTELPRO was happening, and they still denied it until it came out in congressional hearings years later. But now they're just openly, we're going after our political opponents. What are you going to do about it? So it's wild to me.
I want you guys out there to think about this. Why is it that ultra leftists are cheering this on? You want to know why? Because right wingers warned you 10 years ago of Common Core curriculum and where it would lead, and they were called a conspiracy theorists and conspiracy theories. Even though it all became true, they're the ones cheering it on because they've been educated that America is an evil empire. America is bad. And anyone that has ideologies that are liberal or conservative are the problem. They believe in capitalism. They believe in authority of some sort, and they're the evil person. Although the same ACAB leftists are out there celebrating authoritarianism dished out by the FBI and dished out by those involved on January 6th, including the shooting of Ashley Babbitt. They actually carry signs saying she deserved it, deep throating their ACAB boot. They literally are like, I love that boot. And that's what they're doing. That's disgusting.
Yeah, that's been another, a poignant observation that I've made throughout this entire saga, because it seems like we always circle back to having to point this out, is that anytime something happens where the authoritarianism of the state, and this proves exactly why the left-right paradigm is such a fallacy, such a fraud. Anytime the authoritarianism of the state is utilized by one political party against another, the opposite party always loves to cheer for it. Of course, with the leftists cheering for the murder of Ashley Babbitt, and now, they're cheering on the FBI as they previously called for defunding the police. And on the flip side, you have the Republicans that were so opposed to defunding the police, and now they're like, oh, we got to defund the FBI, which, thanks for coming to the party. Refreshments are on the right. It's about damn time you got here. We should have defunded the FBI a long time ago.
Oh, come on in, have a cigar. It's about time. Taxation stuff, you learn all this stuff over time, and we'll help educate you. But they already are, and they're coming after people like me and you. They're coming after us independent journalists because they don't want alternative facts. They don't want anything that isn't government approved or by the Ministry of Truth approved. And Biden got that shut down. It seems like the whole Biden administration has gone full balls to the wall, full front forward to this neo-fascist globalist agenda. And it's not like globalism. I mean, globalism could be a good thing. We could have utopia, but what they want is this Adam Weishaupt utopia. By that, I mean, Adam Weishaupt was the founder of the Bavarian Ill. We'll call him, he was so ill that they wanted to ban him and try to go after him in Germany. And they spawned the French Revolution, the League of the Just, which tried to destroy Judaism, and formed the World Communist Party. That's why everyone identifies communism alongside anti-Semitism, because in majority, that's what it was built to do. It was built to destroy religion, amongst other things, and go in there and disassemble it. A rabbi, I think his name is, Marvin S. Antelman, wrote a book called Eliminate the Opiate, which details Judaic history amongst this, and in covering how basically Adam Weishaupt's writings became the Communist Manifesto, and that's why Marx didn't originate it. And that's what we're facing now. Even in 1953, this was brought up, 1952, or it was between 1952 and 54, at state Senate hearings in California. This exact information was also provided. So I'm not making this up. Communism is synonymous with Illuminati. You can't, I'm not even joking, not even lying. So that being said, guys, we are going to commercial break. Don't go anywhere. Share the live link. Let your friends know. If you're a rock fan, help us, support us. You can drop a tip. You can support us by picking up a Rundown Live shirt. All that helps us here as we will grow. You're going to see some major changes here, including a lot more writings and videos and us out there on the field bringing news to you, because you guys aren't going to get this kind of news anywhere else. We'll be back in just a few. You're listening to the Rundown Live on kgradb.com band.video.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Scrolling all day, time can disappear. Wanna make it count? Why not volunteer?
Posting pics of your food, that takes up time.
Time, you've got time to binge all of season 9, though it got so bad.
Time, you got time. We're gonna grow back and be the same browse you had.
Just a few hours to keep families from harm. Help us end home fires, but sound the alarm.
Volunteer for a day to install free smoke alarms in your community.
Discover the Observation Deck, a one-of-a-kind virtual event platform that takes video conferencing to the next level by using avatars to navigate a campus. There's so many areas and activities to choose from. There's a 1,000-seat auditorium, an expo hall, a nightclub, and even a beach. So come attend a conference, take a class, or hear a lecture on the incredible Observation Deck campus. Go to theobservationdk.com.
You're listening to the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. We provide unparalleled coverage of trending news in the world of ufology, cryptozoology, and paranormal phenomenon. Whether you're watching our video live stream or listening to one of our audio programs, you are getting the best from world-renowned researchers and hosts. guiding you through topics the mainstream won't touch. Miss one of your favorite programs? No problem. Head over to the members area at kgradb.com for access to our massive library of award-winning content. Make contact, stay connected, only at kgradb.com.
Now, you don't know it yet, but you are listening to History in the Making while you are listening to this show.
We know now that in the early years of the 20th century, this world was being watched closely by intelligences greater than man, yet as mortal as his own.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
Censored by the mainstream media, the destroyer of fake news, and your host of the Rundown Live, Kriston T. Harris.
The Rundown Live, rundownlive.com. I'm your host, Kriston T. Harris, live here on band.video, KGRADB. We're live on Rockfin, ROKFIN.com. We have video there. If you guys want to know how to find us, go to the rundownlive.com. As we grow here, we've seen our listenership grow over the last several months. Make sure that you're tuning in. We're here daily. Bringing you information you won't hear anywhere else. And one of these subjects and one of these stories in the top of this hour, second hour here, that we really want to dive into, that's really interesting, is an article that Don Vide Jr. brought up to me. And I had very little knowledge on what was going on with this, maybe a little bit, but that's this article here. This one, new research finds CIA used Black Americans as drug experiment guinea pigs. And they makes you wonder why vaccination was so low in minority communities. They specifically had incredible, I think it was under 26% in New York of minorities were actually vaccinated. So what lockdowns really hurt was minorities, and that's not racist and that's not prejudice. But if that was a conservative ideology that went in, it would be considered racist. It would be considered, a horrible thing. But here it is, our government taking advantage of minorities, and nobody's really talking about it. So we're going to talk about it, Don. What's going on here?
So this basically goes to show really, the irony, really, how the left always talks about the inherent and ingrained white supremacy of the United States and the federal government, but they don't talk about where it actually stems from. They always have this sort of, identity politics way of framing it, when in reality, as we can see with experiments like this, that the real ingrained white supremacy of the federal government is in the CIA, is in the FBI, is in the White House, and the State Department, and so many of these other things. As you mentioned, the Tuskegee experiment, or being one of the big reasons why the African American community has such a big hesitancy when it comes to getting inoculations and things, is because, well, the federal government and the Red Cross came out and said, oh yeah, we're going to treat you for bad blood, and they ended up injecting them with syphilis and allowing syphilis to spread throughout Black communities in Tuskegee, Alabama. And now we're seeing with this new information with the MK Ultra program that they disproportionately targeted Black Americans with a lot of the experiments that they conducted in the program.
Why is that, Don? Why do you think that is?
It was the 1960s, of course, and it kind of goes into what I was just saying, is the ingrained white supremacy of agencies like the CIA. I mean, people have to remember the CIA was literally founded by Nazis. The CIA would not have existed if the Truman administration did not authorize Operation Paperclip, brought over thousands of Nazi war criminals. These aren't like your low-level Wehrmacht, foot soldiers. These are Nazi scientists. These are high-ranking individuals guilty
Henry
of
Kissinger was in charge of that, wasn't he? It was Kissinger that was in charge of Project Paperclip or Operation Paperclip.
Yeah, and so they brought over. Yeah, and they brought over these thousands of Nazis, and they put them into multiple, positions of the government, and one of them being one of the most prominent positions being putting them inside the Office of Strategic Services, which grew and became the CIA. And so it was the founding of the CIA through the Office of Strategic Services and the Nazis that they put in place that really put a lot of these programs. And so the current propaganda campaign, the deepest propaganda program that's been going on since 1953, Project Mockingbird, that was based specifically off of propaganda operations pioneered by the Nazi propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels. And with this program, MK Ultra was pioneered out of Nazi brainwashing and torture experiment programs that they developed during the Holocaust in concentration camps, in places like Auschwitz, by the experiments of people like the Doctor of Death, as he was called, Joseph Mengele. So, the hatred and this white supremacy is deeply ingrained within the CIA itself. And, during the segregationist periods of the 1960s, we saw that very clearly with these new documents showing the disproportionate targeting of Black Americans for torture, for drug usage, for pumping them full of drugs, going into certain prisons. So this piece here, trying to find the article's name, is out of Mint Press News. I'm
Well, I
not
got
sure
it here. It's
Alan
pretty
McLeod
interesting.
wrote it.
Yeah, I got it right here. A study by academics at the University of Ottawa's Culture and Mental Health Disparities Lab sheds a significant new light on this underexplored component of MK Ultra and illuminates hitherto wholly unknown dimension of the program. People of color, overwhelmingly Black Americans, were disproportionately targeted by the CIA in its service, spoken of as animals and treated as such. In 1973, due to fears CIA covert action might be officially audited in the wake of the Watergate scandal, then agency chief Richard Helms ordered all papers related to MK Ultra destroyed. Tens of thousands of documents. You know what's funny is, Clinton destroys documents, and I guess Trump takes them home, and the CIA is sitting there and destroying their own documents because they don't want the public to know. But here it is: tens of thousands of documents somehow survived the purge. Even more conveniently, a significant portion of the research yielded by the project's experiments was published in freely accessible, peer-reviewed scientific journals, as over 80 private and public universities, prisons, and hospitals, whether knowingly or not, conducted psychedelic drug experiments on behalf of the CIA. While LSD was a popular substance of interest, the effects of DMT, mescaline, psychobilin, and THC were also extensively explored. In all, the University of Ottawa team analyzed 49 of these papers, published from 1950s to the 1970s, 40% related to experiments conducted at the Addiction Research Center in Kentucky, which the CIA directly managed. The site included a prison for individuals charged with violating narcotics law, a special ward for drug research, and a prison populated by purported addicts. Researchers employed there preferred to perform tests on former and current drug users, as they were considered to be experienced in the efforts of illicit substances and therefore better able to give informed consent than the abstinent. In practice, the CIA's guinea pigs frequently had no idea what was being administered. In analyzing available literature, the academics examined participants' stated race and ethnicity, recruitment strategies, methodology, and potential dangers to participants. All studies captured incarcerated test subjects, coercive incentives for participating, unsafe dosing levels, and had questionable scientific merit. In almost 90% of the cases, at least one ethical violation was identified. Even over three-quarters employed a high-risk dosing schedule that would be unacceptable under modern guidelines, and 15% used participants with psychotic disorders. Roughly 30% exploited people of color. While in many studies, the race or ethnicity of the test subjects were not recorded, further investigation by Ottawa academics revealed Black Americans were significantly overrepresented in the recruitment sites from which test subjects were drawn. It is inevitable that the actual number of MK Ultra studies that abuse people of color is far larger. For example, while people of color constituted just 7% of Kentucky's population at the time of experiments at the Addiction Research Center, Black and Mexican Americans represented 66% of the site's inmate population.
And, the interesting thing to point out here is, just another facet of how this sort of is ingrained in the deep-rooted white supremacy of the federal government is, it mentions here how they were specifically targeting those who were incarcerated for violating drug laws and things of that nature, and then disproportionately targeting Black Americans. Now, this is during through the 50s to the 70s. What also began during the 50s and the 70s, it was the Nixon drug war. And of course, as we covered on the Free Thought Project many years ago, and I've mentioned on this program, there are whistleblowers who came forward, cabinet members from the Nixon administration, who admitted verbatim that the real reason the drug war started was to criminalize the anti-war movement and the hippies and the Black community. So the CIA was shipping drugs, because we know this from Gary Webb, Kill the Messenger.
Iran-Contra, yep.
Iran-Contra. So the CIA is shipping drugs, shipping cocaine, marijuana, heroin into Black communities, getting Black communities hooked on these drugs. Then the Nixon administration declares a war on drugs, criminalizes the Black community, disproportionately targets Black Americans, putting them inside in jail cells and whatnot. And now the CIA just so happens to be running operations where they're able to use incarcerated persons and drug addiction centers to get guinea pigs and Americans to conduct these torture experiments on. It's so all of thing. I hate to be that guy where it says it's all connected, but it really, when you look at the facts, it really is all connected, whether it be by design or just out of convenience.
Well, like in Scary Movie, he says, wait, there's more. Culture and Mental Health Disparities Lab, University of Ottawa, had this to say: in any event that people of color suffer to a far greater degree than white test subjects at the proverbial hands of the CIA is starkly set forth in the experiments of blood-curdling details. For instance, in 1957, study records how numerous vulnerable individuals were psychologically and physically tortured. In particular, one Black participant who was described by researchers as if he were an animal and treated accordingly, dosed with LSD, exhibited a wild, frightened look, and asked for medicines to relieve his fear. Their response was to place him in restraints and administer a further cocktail of drugs at far higher doses than other participants whose race was not recorded, and to continue doing so against his will. Similarly, the previous year, an experiment was conducted in which Black participants were given 180 micrograms of LSD each day for 85 days, while white participants received 75 micrograms each day over just 8 days. One Black subject had a very severe reaction to their dosage and asked to drop out of the study once they had recovered. After considerable persuasion, however, they agreed to continue. Undue influence was a recurrent theme identified by the academics across the papers and analyzed. A variety of coercive techniques were frequently employed to solicit and maintain participation in brutal and at times life-threatening examinations. For example, Addiction Research Center inmates were offered a choice of reduced sentences or drugs such as heroin in return for volunteering. These drugs could be taken upon completion of the study or saved in a bank account for subsequent withdrawals. Test subjects almost always chose to feed their addictions rather than just get out of prison earlier. Dr. X, this is a serious business, says the setting in which participants were experimented upon also differed wildly according to the race. Even in the same study, one in 1960 observed side by side the effects of LSD on the group of Negro men convicted of drug charges who were dosed in a prison research ward, and another comprised of professional white Americans who freely volunteered and received their doses in the cozy confines of a principal investigator's home. under social conditions designed to reduce anxiety. Such cases gave the appearance of having been expressively conducted to gauge potentially varying reactions to psychedelic drugs in black and white participants, which raises the obvious question of whether the CIA had a specific or indeed greater interest in the effect of certain drugs on people of color rather than the civilian population in general. Dana Strauss, who led the Ottawa University investigation, argues that the disproportionate representation of Black Americans in MKUltra experiments, while intensely racially charged, was simply a reflection of the ethnic compositions of the institutions targeted by the CIA, although she's certain that the agency's researchers did not have a readily available prison population at their disposal. They would still have opted to target people of color in the manner of the Tuskegee syphilis study, which, if you don't know what Tuskegee is, they vaccinated a bunch of minorities and gave them syphilis and they died. Yep, that's it.
Yeah, well, not only did they die, I mean, when you really dig into the documents of what happened in Tuskegee, it really is incredibly insidious, because not only did they inject them with placebo medicines and even in some cases allegedly deliberately injected them with syphilis, whereas most of those who were being injected already had syphilis, and they were told, mind you, penicillin was a thing at this point. Penicillin easily treats syphilis. Penicillin was a thing at this point. They knew it treated syphilis, and instead they were injecting them with placebos, with water, with nothing essentially. And the whole basis of the experiment was to sit back and observe what happened when syphilis spread throughout the Black community. So it wasn't just allowing Black men to carry it and die from it, but they were allowing it to spread through the community. Women and children were infected with it, and there are still people in Tuskegee, Alabama, or was it Georgia, one of those places there, but there's still people in and around that community to this very day. Mind you, this only happened a few decades ago, a handful of decades ago. Still people there to this day who genetically suffer from the effects of what the CDC and the American Red Cross did in that study, because the Tuskegee experiment was not the CIA, it was the CDC and the American Red Cross, which just goes to show how insidious those agencies are.
Yeah, it's wild. And right on subject with this article, I don't know if you saw this. This was in the BBC not too long ago, and it says, "Is it right to use Nazi research if it can save lives?" What do you mean? I'm wondering if how much of our research is coming from that right now. These brain chip interfaces and the New World Order ideology. It was very wide run in the idea of Nazism and socialism, amongst other things. Obviously, it says, from Apollo rockets to new drugs to treat HIV, some scientific advances are obtained in dubious ways. Should we make peace with using their findings? Seeking local angle on the 50th anniversary of the moon landings this week, Washington, D.C. news station WTOP published a glowing biography of the brilliant rocket scientist Wernher von Braun, who was laid to rest in the nearby Alexandria in 1977. The article caused uproar, however, and was swiftly retracted. The reason? It failed to mention that he was a Nazi. That's right. They don't want you to know that the Nazis and this ideology of New World Order, this ideology of transhumanism, a lot of these ideologies stemmed from these mentally ill, psychotic individuals like Mengele. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, and that actually falls right in line with what I was talking about earlier with Project Paperclip. Another one of the big organizations that came out of Project Paperclip, aside from the CIA, was NASA. Wernher von Braun was the head of NASA. The entirety of our space program was specifically based off of technology developed during the Nazis' V2 rocket program that he was also involved in during the Hitler regime. So our whole space race and everything that the United States accomplished was specifically because of the research that they conducted during the V2 program. Now, can you say, okay, well, it's a good thing that the U.S. was able to, build our space program or whatever. If you believe in that stuff, there are people who believe the moon landing was faked. I personally don't. I believe the footage. I believe the footage of the moon landing was probably fake, but if you actually study the history of the secret space program and some of the things that were have been divulged over what our true technological capabilities are. I think personally the whole moon landing was fake conspiracy theory is more of a limited hangout sort of psyop to misdirect people away from the fact that not only did we go to space, but we encountered a number of extraterrestrials. But I'm kind of getting off topic here.
Well, you know what else was a big conspiracy and was dubbed to be fake and false was Operation Paperclip.
Yeah,
like literally Operation, like the stuff that the New World Order or the United Nations or the World Economic Forum or the Biden administration wants to censor would be information like Operation Paperclip, which was legitimate, which was a real conspiracy, and it was headed by Henry Kissinger, one of these Bilderberger, who is involved in a Nazi organization. The Bilderberg was started by Prince Bernhard, who was a former SS officer. Another example of this globalized initiative that really is dehumanizing Americans. You know how they're dehumanizing Americans? They want you to do things like become cannibals and eat bugs. And we're going to dive into that at the bottom of this hour, amongst other things. But like, this is literally one of the examples of a real conspiracy that our government was in, and that we just accept bin Laden was the Al Qaeda or United States government asset. Everyone denied it for about 10 or 15 years. Now it's just, accepted fact. Everyone knows it because there's videos of Hillary Clinton saying, we funded the Mujahideen to take on Russia, those Ruskies during the Cold War. And they're trying to bring the Cold War back. That's really what they're trying to do. They want everything to be tied back to the conservatives because they want to expunge and destroy any idea or representation of America. That's why the Gatsby flag is now considered a form of terrorism. That's why, you look at the good old do not tread on me flag, and they want to say that is a terrorist thing. And we have politicians, like people have shirts, they have flags all over America. All of you are targets. I want you to know that every American out there that loves this country or loves the idea of Americanism, you're the target. That's what they want to destroy. And they won't openly admit it, just like anything else. And it's conservatives and liberals funded by multinational corporations that want to destroy this nation, take it apart, and unify the global system into a one world government and make it an Adam Weishaupt utopian future. That's exactly what we're going into here. And I didn't even listen, I know that people said the moon landing was fake. I do know that there are some precarious things, like NASA accidentally deleted the footage of the film. And the only footage we have of the moon landing is that of mainstream media, because the original, because it wasn't a really important beat, obviously, if they just, reused the whole tape. That's right up there with Biden getting 85 million votes and having to rate Trump. Like he didn't rate him, but the FBI rating Trump in order to prevent him from, running for re-election, because, if you didn't steal election, that makes sense, right? Amongst other things. So this world is divided. And I'm going to tell you right now, you are onto something. This division with Trump, because he is warning right now that there's going to be repercussions if the FBI goes after him. There is going to be acts, I think, of extremism. And you know what happens when there's acts of extremism by certain ideological groups? They're trying to create this domestic terrorism, by the way. They're trying to manufacture it, if you're asking me. They're going to go ahead and then clamp down on everyone. They're going to clamp down on conservatives. They're going to clamp down on the don't tread on me signs, the oath keepers, and anyone that has ideology that isn't far left, because that is the globalist agenda. I'm telling you right now that if there's extremists, there's who knows? This is ripe for what Jones used to call a false flag. I'm not saying that whatever is going to happen is a false flag, but I wouldn't be surprised if some, Gatsby flag wearing dude goes out there, loves Jones, and was a big fan of Donald Trump, goes and, starts doing dumb stuff because they're advertising it. They literally are not worried about domestic terrorism. They're looking for more of it. They want more of it because they want to use it to destroy America. And if it comes from the left, you won't hear about it, right? We learned that. You won't hear about it. If the left commits terrorism, if they commit acts of terrorism, if they stop acts of terrorism from the left, it will not, you won't hear about it. It will never make the news. And that's really what we're looking at in this world today. This deep dive into everything else. Well, I want to go ahead and head on over to this article, which is another subject here, while we have 5 minutes yet, and we can go through this. And that is the deeper dive into the CDC reversal. And if you don't know, and you're not living out there, I got a text from somebody, and they're like, you know what? This tells me the whole CDC COVID narrative was fake. Because why would they reverse their CDC deep dive into COVID regulations and minimizing the spread of it? Is it because the vaccine is working? Because I'm going to tell you that's what they want you to believe.
Yeah, that's the spin that they attempted to put on it, that now these reversals are possible because the vaccine is working so tremendously, when all the actual facts and the data prove that that's not the case at all. But yeah, we can definitely dive deeper into this once we get back from break, and a little bit right now. This is a fantastic piece that I read last night out of the Brownstone Institute from Jeffrey Tucker, who founded the Brownstone Institute. If you don't know Jeffrey Tucker, definitely follow him. He's a very intelligent individual. I appreciate him a lot. And basically the whole purpose of this article is sort of diving into the recent CDC reversals, that now they're saying, the vaccinated and the unvaccinated there shouldn't be any differentiation between the two. And, no more social distancing, and there's no need for lockdowns, while they're still pushing for masks really heavily, of course, because that's more of a political tool. But, more of the whole, the mass track trace, that's done with, doesn't really do anything. And, no needs for social isolation unless you're symptomatic. Basically, all the things that many of us were saying from the beginning, that the experts that they refused to listen to. You remember the whole trust the experts thing. Well, there are a crap ton of experts, a lot of world-renowned, very reputable experts, such as Dr. John P.A. Ioannidis and Dr. Martin Kulldorff and Dr. Robert Malone, and so many others, the hundreds, thousands at this point, that have signed on to the Great Barrington Declaration, that voiced a difference of opinion, and instead of actually having a scientific debate and a public discourse like a rational civil society should, well, they just censored, and they said, you can't talk about these ideas. You're not allowed to have these ideas. It doesn't matter, Dr. Malone, that you invented mRNA vaccine technology. You're literally the inventor of it, and you're the reason we have it. You're not allowed to tell us that we're using your product wrong, Dr. Malone. The point is, they censored and shut all of these ideas down. And now with this latest reversal, they're essentially embracing all the concepts of the Great Barrington Declaration, or most of them anyway. And so what Jeffrey Tucker does here is he sort of dives into it, and it raises the points, in depth, goes into the point that I made the day that this reversal came out. I said on my Twitter and on my Facebook page, what happened to all those people who just lost their jobs? The thousands of people who lost their jobs because of vaccine mandates. All the people that were dehumanized, that were harassed, that
they got rid of them. That's what they wanted to do. They wanted to get rid of them.
They were harassed. They were segregated against. All the people that were gaslit, because of the vaccine mandates. But now, now the script has completely flipped 180. So there are terrible things happened over the past year or so because of these mandates, and now they just flip 180. The flip is welcome. Good. Finally, some logic and reason from this corrupt agency called the CDC. But we can't just pretend that they didn't commit the heinous acts that they did over the past year. They still need to be held accountable for their actions.
That being said, guys, don't go anywhere. We are going to commercial break. We'll be back after these messages from our sponsors. We're diving deep into the CDC reversal. We're gonna dive into that. We're gonna talk about 3D printing bugs and eating bugs in the future, how they're trying to dehumanize us, amongst many other things, and the holy grail of UFO photos that allegedly was released by our government. Is it legit? Is it not? We're not quite sure. We'll be back with more information for you guys. Don't go anywhere. Pound the like button. Drop some tips. Support us. Check out the Rundown Live. Pick up some swag. We need your help. We're 100% funded by you guys. We'll be back.
This is Band Questions, take 1. Who?
What?
When?
Where?
Why? How?
Questions. When I was growing up, I had so many questions.
I think that questions lead to more questions. Ignorance is bliss.
By middle school,
a child's curiosity is at an all-time high.
And that's because kids like to ask questions.
We need to help them tune out.
Truth doesn't matter.
Let's just ban questions altogether.
And encourage kids to do what they're told. To be dull and uninformed.
Listen to the voice of authority.
There are limits.
Dare to be boring.
You can't change the world. Let's ban questions.
Be dumb. Be you. Ban questions.
Encourage kids to obey today. Take the pledge at thejoycamp.com. We're not asking, we're telling.
It's no secret that the independent media is held to a much higher standard than the lamestream media. When's the last time that you've seen the New York Times get a 30-day ban for lying about weapons of mass destruction? Or how about the Independent getting a 7-day suspension on YouTube for claiming that everyone that Kyle Rittenhouse shot was African American? The truth is you don't, because they get away with it. We don't. We're independents. And what separates us from the lamestream media is that we are 100% funded by you. That's right. We're your radio program. We're your station. And we're open to everyone. We're interested in hearing all the topics, all the sides, because that's kind of like how science works, right? You take in all the data, you decide what is correct and what is not, but it doesn't censor information, because then you can't make great decisions to feed your brain. We need your help here on therundownlive.com. Support us by heading over to our website and checking out our brand new swag. We have hot and sexy, all-seeing eye UFO pyramid boombox t-shirts. That's right, check them out. They're great, and there's no better way to support us than picking up some swag to spread the word about liberty and freedom and the ability to choose what is real and what is not for yourself, not some ministry of truth. Check us out, therundownlive.com. Pick up a t-shirt today. Again, that's therundownlive.com. Hit our store link and go shop, pick something up, support us.
Hey guys, I'm back with Is that The Bachelor? Oh, great show.
Oh, what's up, dude?
Oh, hey,
you were just in time. Oh, what's up, buddy?
I've got something that'll make our favorite show even better.
Oh, I bet I know what he's talking about. Oh, yeah! That's what I'm talking about. That was what I was talking about.
Is it sativa? It's just called Truth Bomb.
Truth Bomb Hybrid. You finna get woke.
Oh.
I don't really know what that means, but we're woke, so it sounds like
let's
it's
get even
just fine.
woke.
Hey,
you guys, there's a warning on here.
Shall I? You shall. How is it?
Taxation is theft.
What did you say? You have to pay taxes. Otherwise, who would build the roads?
You're right.
Besides, Big Pharma is keeping us sick.
Wait. What?
What? It's true.
Try this.
Public schools are indoctrination camps.
Oh!
Whoa! This packs a mighty powerful punch.
Wow, that's the strongest little joint I've ever seen.
Let me put this tiny
And
thing
they are
down.
indoctrination camps.
They are.
Take another hit. Take another hit. I gotta see where this goes.
Okay, tiny joint. Do what you do. The fluoride in our water is calcifying our pineal gland.
Oh my god! That makes so much sense! That makes so much sense! That's our third eye! That's our third eye! Hold on. Wow. The Super Bowl halftime show is a mega occult ritual.
Oh shit, it is!
It's in plain sight. It's in plain sight.
Give me. It's my turn. Circumcision is genital mutilation!
It is.
Oh, they just cut your dick tip right off.
Just cut right off.
And I'm Latino, I should still have mine.
Guys, I have an idea.
Oh, what's your idea?
Rundown Live, rundownlive.com. If you're just joining us, by the way, we have been diving into a lot of interesting things, including the first half brain cloud interfaces. We've been diving into this whole narrative of the FBI and the CDC and the CIA and everything dealing with CIA targeting African Americans predominantly in the MK Ultra test. Makes you wonder. When we talked about the Nazi roots, and that's eugenics, right? They believed in eugenics, and they were targeting minorities, which they believed were inferior. And a lot of those programs were stacked with a lot of these type of individuals put there by Henry Kissinger, the good guy that's 100 years old and is leading the steering club of Rome Commission at the Bilderberg group there that was founded by Prince Bernhard, former Nazi, and all those white elitists, 1,500 of them go to Bohemian Grove and they do a mock child sacrifice because it imitates and is a perversion of the human sacrifice of Christ amongst everything, because they gotta literally have somebody take the burden of all their sins of the great world away, and Moloch does that for them over at Bohemian Grove. And we don't make this stuff up. You think it's nuts, it's wild. Do the research yourself. And these are the kind of things that you don't know what goes on there because you can't be in there. Alternative facts, only Alex Jones stuck in there. But we're talking about right now this Brownstone Institute research study on the CDC reversing their rules. And here it is. It says it would have been fascinating to be a fly in the wall and brainstorming session that led to this little treatise. If you didn't hear, the CDC reversed, pretty much everything that they said. It's now a choice if you want to get the jab or not. Thousands of healthcare workers left their job. People all over the world were forced to take the jab. It literally was a giant MK Ultra experiment, if you ask me. But the words were chosen very carefully, not to say anything false outright, much less admit any errors of the past, but to imply that it was only possible to say these things now. As SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes COVID-19, continues to circulate globally, high levels of vaccine and infection-induced immunity and the availability of effective treatments of prevention tools has substantially reduced the risk for medically significant COVID-19 illness, severe acute illness, and post-COVID-19 conditions, and associated hospitalization and death. The circumstances now allow public health efforts to minimize the individual and societal health impacts of COVID-19 by focusing on sustainable measures to further reduce medically significant illness, as well as to minimize strain on the healthcare system while reducing barriers to social and educational and economic activity. Never talk about the World Economic Forum. Never talk about the World Health Organization or the New World Order in a bad way. Because you know why? Because only tens of millions of people died of starvation due to economic shutdown, which the World Health Organization recommended. But we won't talk about that on this show because there's only good things to say, right? Just like Biden and his 85 million votes, he doesn't need to raid the president to prevent him from running again because he's the most popular president ever. So obviously that narrative is false. In English, everyone can pretty much go back to normal is what this is saying from my understanding, Don. So that's essentially, the small little correction. It's not really a study out of the Brownstone Institute. It's more just an article, an op-ed by Jeffrey Tucker, simply, sort of breaking down and explaining in plain English exactly what this means and pointing out more so the hypocrisies and just the absolute insanity that the CDC has hoisted upon Americans for the past 2 years to now just flip around and say, as it says here in this paragraph in English, everyone can pretty much go back to normal now. Focus on the illness that is medically significant. Stop worrying about positive cases because there's nothing is going to stop them. Think about the bigger picture of the overall social health. End the compulsion. Thank you. It's only 2.5 years late, as Mr. Tucker has said. Yeah, what about the mass testing? Forget it. All persons should seek testing for active infection when they are symptomatic or if they have a known or suspect exposure to someone with COVID right now. What about the magic track and trace? Well, CDC now recommends case investigation and contact tracing only in healthcare settings and certain high-risk congregate settings. Oh, and what about the unvaccinated who are so demonized throughout the last year? Well, the CDC's COVID-19 prevention recommendations no longer differentiate based on the person's vaccination status because breakthrough infections occur, though they are generally mild, and persons who have had COVID-19 but are not vaccinated have some degree of protection against severe illness from their previous infection. Remember when 40% of the members of the Black community in New York City who refused to get the jab not allowed into restaurants, bars, and libraries and museums or theaters? That's not racist. Now no one wants to talk about that, of course. Also universities and colleges and the military and so on, which still have the mandates in place. Do you hear this? Are you guys thinking about this out there? I want you guys just to stop. We'll give you guys a moment of silence. Think about that. 40% of members of black communities in New York City who refused the jab, and I was like it was 64% at one point, were not allowed into restaurants, bars, libraries, and museums or theaters.
Yeah,
Now, no one
that's
wants to talk about that.
Yeah, that was a big point that was made against the vaccine mandates, is because it is a statistical fact that the African American community is less likely to inject themselves with a questionable government substance. Therefore, the vaccine mandates were inherently racist from the jump. That's why New York City Black Lives Matter activists, we covered this on the Free Thought
Yes.
Project, were openly against it. They came out and rallied against it. Of course, Fox News didn't tell you about that, but yes, BLM was against the vax mandates. At least some of them in
Marched
New
along
York City.
conservatives that felt
Exactly.
that way too. Everything you have done to hate on people, the CDC, and people out there on the left, or people, and I shouldn't even say on the left, people who were, dehumanizing people because they didn't get the jab. They segregated people, the CDC. They humiliated others as unclean, fire people, and destroy lives, now stands in disrepute. Meanwhile, as of this writing, the blasted U.S. government still will not allow unvaccinated travelers across its borders. Not one word of the CDC's turgid treaties was untrue back in the spring of 2020. There was always infection-induced immunity, though Fauci and company constantly pretended otherwise. It was always a terrible idea to introduce barriers to social, educational, and economic activity. The vaccines were never promised in their authorization to stop infection and spread, even though all official statements of the CDC claimed otherwise, repeatedly and often. But, this is the kind of information that they're going to want to censor. This is kind of information that Alex Jones was talking about, that they said he was wrong about, and he brought awareness to, right? You might also wonder how the Great Reversal treats masking. On this subject, there's no backing off. After all, the Biden administration still has an appeal in process to reverse the court decision that the mask mandate was illegal all along. At the high COVID-19 community level, the CDC adds additional recommendations focused on all persons wearing masks indoor in public and further increasing protection to populations at high risk. The problem from the beginning was that there never was an exit strategy from the crazy lockdown mandate idea. It was never the case that they would magically cause the bug to go away. The excuse that we would lock down and wait for a vaccine never made any sense. People surely knew early on of the social, economic, and cultural devastation that would ensue due to economic and world shutdowns. Not only that, amongst many other things, the outcasting and dehumanizing of people. If they did not, they never should have been anywhere near the control switches of the public health. Badges and bureaucracies do not terrify a virus destined to spread the whole planet. And not one person with even the most casual passing knowledge of coronaviruses could have sincerely believed that a vaccine would magically appear to achieve something never before achieved in the whole history of medicine. When the Great Barrington Declaration appeared on October 4th of 2020, it caused a global frenzy of fury, not because they had said anything new. It was merely a pithy restatement of basic public health principles, which pretty much instantly became verbatim on March 16th of 2020 when Fauci and Birx announced their grand scheme. The GBD generated mania because of the existing praxis was based on preposterously unproven claims that demanded that billions of people buy into a complete nonsense. Sadly, many did simply because it seemed hard to believe that all world regimes, but a handful would push such a damaging policy if it was utterly unworkable. When something like this happens, and there never was the hope that it could be, or that it could actually work, the regime imperative becomes censorship and shaming of dissent. It's the only way to hold the great lie together. So now they want to censor you. They want to censor me. They want to censor Alex Jones. They want to censor Donald Trump. They want to censor anyone on the left like Max Blumenthal, who exposes the corruption of war crimes. Anyone like Julian Assange. They want to censor everyone out there some way possible. Let's be honest, everyone's been Alex Jones since Facebook went ahead and started banning people, since Twitter now shadow bans people. I saw Eddie Ads, by the way, who did a shadow ban check. So I had to do one too. I'm equally shadow banned. We are literally there where we can't get any aggregation. Listen, this show on Facebook used to have hundreds of people watching us live. Hundreds, and they wouldn't leave. Well, you know what? Now that's down, even though we have about 60,000 followers between our two pages. We're lucky to get 7 people on Facebook because they don't want you to hear what we said. If our network said Fox News, the Rundown Live, you want to know how many, there'd be hundreds of people tuning in right now.
Yeah.
Right now. We have more than local papers followers.
Right. Yeah, I'm looking at the numbers right now. Currently, mind you, we have tens of thousands of followers on Facebook. 4 currently watching right now at this moment. Then we have 1 on YouTube. But the Rockfin, the Rumble, it's blowing up. So definitely, if you're going to watch the Rundown live, check us out on the Rockfin.
Well, that's where it is. Like our last video on Rumble, which was not even about politics. It was about, well, we had some things on there, but shadow people had about 500 views. And our ones on Alex Jones had 700 or 800 views on there. That's not even on Band.video. Band.video, we're getting 2, 3, 4, 5, 10,000 views. And people are watching it daily, and people are finding us on Rockfin because they literally feel it's treason to go on Google. We've heard it on the show. We've read the comments out there. You guys want us to use DuckDuckGo, which we've started to try to use, but that's no better. Everything seems to be a controlled narrative, and we need to stop it, and we need to move platforms. And yeah, YouTube is censoring people. Twitter is censoring people. Facebook is censoring people. And then they all complain that their stock is down, right? They're having problems. Elon Musk doesn't want to pay for the Twitter network when they're literally shadow banning anyone with a conservative ideology, and all that would change. And it's a frenzy. You know why? Because election time is coming up. And if Elon Musk picks it up now, well, you know, the Dems are already hurting. And I'm not saying that the Republicans are any better, but I'm telling you that people who are getting involved and running in the primaries, they're getting involved because they understand at some level, maybe a diet level, of what me and Don do. All these people that are winning these GOP primaries, 188 of them, I would say a good half of them are awake to trutherism and what is really happening in the world and the facts that really matter. Not the ones that the media feeds you, but the ones that you researched for years and years and years and years and years, just to have someone that watches news all day tell you that you're batshit crazy, because you're not. You did the research. You've done the understanding. And it doesn't mean we all agree. I've always said, if you want to believe the world is flat, that's fine. I don't care. You believe that doesn't mean you're right. Just like the judge said and told Jones, just because you believe everything you said doesn't mean it's right. But what it does mean is that even though you should research, are the facts right? And I'm going to tell you, Jones is right 99% of the time. People will hate me for saying that, and people want to know why I'm plugging him. It's not because we're on our network. It's because he is effective, and we cannot lose the ability of freedom of speech, and he is patient zero, as you've heard. And we need to talk about this. You need to go over to Band.video, pick up his new book, read it. I picked up an autographed copy. You should too. Support people out there. Go to the Rundown Line, support us. Because you know what's going to happen if you don't? You're going to be eating 3D printed bugs. And I can't make that up. This is right here in the news. This is where it's all going. This is that transhumanist agenda. 3D printing insects mixed with vegetables could help us prevent food crisis. You know, why is it that they want us to eat bugs? Why is it that they want us to be cannibals? Because this is the mystery religion that William Cooper always talked about. And it's on spot on. People are insane. They are. And instead, like, we could make it look like a chicken, right? And then make it taste like a chicken. But no.
Look, I eat a lot of vegan food, but like cockroach vegetable saute, it's not on my menu, brother.
You don't want a worm taco. You don't want a peanut butter and cockroach or chocolate covered grasshoppers, or instead of getting crab legs when you're out, you can get spider legs. I mean, they're pretty much the same thing, right? Except for the crab. I don't want to freak anyone out, but that's the facts. Anyways, scientists from SUTD try to solve the food supply problem with 3D printing. So here's the deal. I got to ask you this, Don, and you, the listeners. This is the logic. They want to save us from starvation with 3D printing. But the cartridges that they supply have to be made from somewhat organic or natural items. They're going to have to get the cartridges and the food from somewhere. So all they're trying to do is transition you into this genetically modified food that they have to create and edit, because once they start pushing the designer baby narrative and they're editing your DNA, they need to make it so that your body can take nutrients from food you don't normally eat. And guess what? They're pushing bugs to dehumanize you. As the world's population increases day by day, the need to demand of food has also increased. Well, why not teach them how to farm? Why is not teaching people how to make farms and plant trees? Why is that not the initiative?
Right.
To leave our kids a better planet and leave better kids for our planet by getting rid of this Common Core curriculum. No, the agenda is eat bugs. The agenda is look at your best friend and go, you're tasty. I will eat your rear end if I gotta. We're going to make Ben Zion burgers out of a Petri dish lab, and Bill Gates is going to fund it. That's where we're going with this. We're, lab-grown foods. And here it is. As the world's population increases day by day, the need for demand for food is also increased because the greenhouse gas emissions, right? This is for global warming again. We need to eat one another. This just makes no logical sense. Increased water and other factor food sources could be a huge problem for some. In fact, some products such as insects and algae have already been consumed in some countries in Asia, South America, and Africa. Therefore, scientists have been working to solve the problem for humanity. They want you to eat bugs, okay? The appearance and taste of such alternative proteins can be disconcerting for many. This is where the versatility of 3D food printing rises to the challenge, and it can transform how food is presented and overcome the inertia of consumer inhibitions, says Chua Chi Kai, study co-author and professor at Singapore University of Technology and Design. And here you go. There's your 3D printed. Look at, they even make them in pyramids. Look at, they made them in cricket Giza pyramids. I'm not even making this up. Here you go. There you go. Get your little Illuminati like bugs and eat them, and you're going to be happy. Are you going to eat Illuminati bugs, Don?
No, I don't think I will.
No, but in other tech news, I think it's really important for us to talk about this article as well. We alluded to it a little earlier, and this is what we're going to probably end the show up on. Not eating diabolical bugs, and that's that. Listen, we have so much news. I wanted to get into the holy grail of hard evidence of UFOs, that they exist, amongst other things, but I don't know. The government seems to be lax on the UFO topics. They don't ban it, so it makes you wonder what the truth is. But there's an FBI bulletin. This is on the top of Drudge Report that warns of dirty bomb threat and increasing calls for civil war in wake of Mar-a-Lago raid. And this is what the elitists want. They want a civil war. They want the succession. They want this nation broken up to 5 or 6 FEMA regions. That's where we're going. We known it all along. They were making fake Obama flags like in 2008, and they had a big O on it. You guys remember it? And everyone's like, oh, FEMA camps aren't real. And now it's like, yeah, go to your FEMA camp, get your jab.
Yeah, I mean, like we mentioned earlier, it's not surprising whatsoever. It's just like I predicted when we first covered the Trump raid the day after it happened. I said that they were going to weaponize this to continue to proliferate this divide and conquer. And what are we seeing now? We're seeing more divide and conquer, Republican versus Democrat, conservative versus liberal, calls for civil war, hate your neighbor, hate your neighbor, hate your neighbor. That's all these people push. That's exactly what they want, because they know that a united working class America is what's going to bring down the tyrant class that's screwing all of us with their thousands of IRS agents and their New World Order globalism. You will eat bugs and know nothing and be happy bullshit.
Well, my question is if they came out and they said the reason why they went after Trump was because of Epstein's list, I think a lot of people have been like, oh, okay. But at the same time, they would have been like, what about everyone else on the list? Because there was that conspiracy going around. Obviously, that was inherently false. This is literally, in my opinion, a Clinton operation to prevent the president from running or whatever, because they are scared because he was so crazy popular. But Joe Biden was more popular because he got 85 million votes. And there's no reason why he would need to raid the president to prevent him from running again. But they don't want him to run again, obviously. And it's not because they want to save this country. They want the division. And so now they're worried about dirty bombs. And we've known before that the FBI and government agencies have left out and put out false statements in order to either implant these ideas in people's mind or either to get suspects to start to act a certain way to go after extremists. They want the extremists to come out. That's what they're doing. They're identifying anyone that has an American flag now. You're an extremist. And it won't be long till everything is United Nations and we have Adam Weishaupt utopianism where you won't have private property. There'll be a one world religion. They'll call it the New World Order, which they already do, with the Ukraine saying we fight for the New World Order, and of course, mostly Nazis make up that sanctions. But, and last but not least on today's show, this has been making rounds in the UFO world. And Don, you sent this to me, and I know that we have some interest, and we're on KGRA, one of the world's largest paranormal digital broadcast station. There's huge listeners held by John B. Wells late at night. He, former Coast to Coast AM talk show host, he is the anchor at night. But the fact that there's this UFO craze going on, and allegedly the government released a real UFO photograph. I don't got it up.
I'm not sure if it was the government. I think it was the guy who took the photo years ago was the one that released it as another.
Okay, my bad.
I believe, because I haven't had the chance to read it. I just saw the article and I thought it'd be, something that we could dive into either today or tomorrow. And so I sent it to you. I was super busy this morning, but I saw it last night because I was listening to the radio show. I won't mention it on air because it's technically our competition, but but I was listening to this program and they was interviewing Dr. Jonathan Reed, who was famous for one of these massive UFO experiences back in '96, and it just reminded me that I had seen this article come up in my news feed previously. So I was like, hey, this would be a good thing for us to cover. But yeah, allegedly the holy grail of hard UFO evidence, one of the most spectacular photos ever taken, and the photo right here on the cover photo is the actual photo, allegedly. And we can dive into this a little bit.
Well, it was filmed back then. This isn't like dirt on this, on the camera. This was actually filmed before they had the digital camera there, where they could edit the film, right, and they could go and manipulate it. This is a legitimate photograph.
Yeah, this is what makes this particular piece of evidence so difficult to dispute. I mean, still people still try and definitely welcome it. Definitely always try to figure out how to debunk things if you can, if it's plausible. But that's what makes it so interesting. Is this was before the era of Photoshop. This is before the era of digital editing, to where if you wanted to go out and fake something like this, you had to have a huge Hollywood budget to do this back when this was taken. And so it's really interesting.
Well, essentially, this says a former RAF officer, Craig Lindsay, has revealed a UFO photo he has kept for 32 years. On August of 1990, the photo was given to the Daily Record, who turned them over to the Minister of Defense. At that point, the photograph simply vanished, along with the two young men who took them. Oh, they vanished. We now know via unclassified information that the governments from around the world have been interested in studying the phenomenon that we've been talking about, UFOs. So Dr. David Clark, an associate professor at Sheffield Hallam University in the United Kingdom, is a known expert in the study of UFOs. He is a consultant for the National Archives of UFO Files project and recently published a fascinating story about this photo. So as somebody with government ties, or at least the photo shows the large UFO was military with a military jet in the background, held by mod insider Craig Lindsay, who describes it as the most spectacular UFO picture ever captured, the holy grail in terms of Harvard evidence, which is something I think we talked about briefly on the show if we mentioned it, but that's what it looks like. I mean, it's literally, this looks like a triangle TR-3B almost, but it could be a cylindrical top or diamond shaped or pyramid shaped UFO. And yes, you see the jet in the background. I mean, that looks pretty interesting.
It is. It's incredibly interesting, and perhaps we can talk about it more on Freaky Friday. I know we got to wrap here in a couple minutes, so for all our listeners and viewers, what I'm going to do within the couple hours after we get off air, I'm going to go ahead and aggregate this article on the rundownlive.com. So if you want to read it yourself, you want to look at the article yourself, the photograph yourself, you want to go through the evidence, before the end of today, before this afternoon Eastern time, this will be up on the rundownlive.com. check it out yourself, and maybe we can dive into it on Friday.
And that's where it's at. We're going to be growing the Rundown Live. We got more writers and more people coming out of the woodwork that we haven't talked about. We're just trying to get some people trained and on board with what we're looking for when we're writing, what is quality, and make sure that we're not, we know how to play the, like they said, there's a problem I was reading in the Quora forums by experts were talking about misinformation or conspiracy. They said, well, now that Alex Jones is gone, what are we going to do about conspiracy theorists? And they said, well, it's really hard because we know where the line is to dance and what to say and how to say it. And, we're not afraid to, be the T-Rex at Jurassic Park and hit the electrical line every once in a while and get to make sure it's still there. That being said, guys, we need your support. Check out the rundownlive.com. Pick up some swag. You guys seen the T-shirts. We need your help 100%. Make sure you're tuning in tomorrow. We're here weekdays, 5 days a week on KGRA-DB. If there's not video, go to KGRADB.com to listen to the audio. We'll be cataloging this. It's already cataloged on Rumble, Rockfin, but band.video later tonight. Share the live stream. Let your friends know to tune in. You guys have a blessed one. Do something wonderful for your neighbor. And remember, you can trust people in the government, but don't trust the government. Have a good night.